We are scarily near the end of the first season of Friends, and the one with the Egg Factor is the 22nd episode of the first season, directed by Robby Benson, and we have several narratives going on here, and I'll be honest, I find the main plot interesting, and the two subplots, one of them more interesting than the other. So the main plot here, with reference to the title of the Ick Factor, is that Monica is in a relationship with a boy called Ethan. There will be spoilers in this discussion, because I kind of have to explain why it's called the Ick Factor. Well, I guess I don't have to, but I would like to. So there will be spoilers. If for whatever reason you haven't seen this episode, check it out and come back. It is, of course, on Netflix. So she is actually in a relationship, a fairly new relationship, with somebody called Ethan. Ethan is played by Stan Kirsch, and she has told Ethan that she is 22, and Ethan has said that he is a senior in college. What made me feel physically sick is that Monica says at one point that she's 26, which she is. The character is 26. I'm 30, and I'm sure I'm not alone with this when I say that people of my generation who started watching this at the beginning of the noughties, the fact that we are now slightly significantly older than the characters are when it first aired doesn't sit right with me. There's no way that I am now older than the characters in Friends. That just doesn't work, and I know I'm not alone in feeling like that. It's quite scary. But yeah, so Monica says that she's actually 22, Ethan says he's a high school and senior, he's actually much younger, and she is, of course, older. So the ick factor there is that she is in a relationship with somebody who is significantly younger than she is, illegally younger in, I think she said 48 states? I'm not sure if that's still 100% factually correct, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so that's definitely a relatively interesting narrative. It wasn't the most funny for the main plot, but it was interesting, and obviously watching it now with Monica only being 26 is just, it's painful. The other kind of three main subplots we have, Ross has a pager, which is pretty exciting because it means we're getting close to the birth of Ben. He has a pager so Carol can beep him if she goes into labour, but of course people keep beeping him thinking he is 55 Jumbo, but he is 55 Jimbo, and I don't know how much of that would have gone over my head when I first started watching Friends, but of course over the years you learn more and more, you pick up on more of the adult references. And I think, sure, I may be older than the characters were in the first 3 seasons, but the great thing about watching it and growing up watching it is that you do get more out of it the older you get, every time you watch it. Well, maybe not every time, but certainly every couple of years you may gain a little bit more knowledge up to a certain point. So it may be scary that I'm now older than the first 3 seasons of Friends, but still getting a lot out of it. We also have Rachel, who has been having sex dreams about Joey, and Ross is obviously not very happy about that. An interesting enough plot. I liked the scene where Rachel was asleep on the sofa. I thought that was a well shot scene with Darryl Schwimmer giving a fantastic performance. And the subplot that I really enjoyed is Phoebe becoming Chandler's assistant, and finally people acknowledging the way Chandler talks, and this is where we really get the first Chandler impressions. And over the years, impersonating Chandler is something that has become commonplace, but this is kind of the first time where the way Chandler speaks is really focused on. And I don't know, I'd love to know, I don't know if Matthew Perry intentionally changed the emphasis on the way Chandler speaks, because Chandler emphasizes things in very specific ways, which is of course the focus of the humour here. I don't know if that was a conscious decision on Matthew Perry's part, if he kind of sat down and thought, okay, I'm going to make this character emphasize uniquely, or if it's just the way the character kind of developed. But certainly pointing it out, I think, is something that was a golden opportunity that then led on to many, many, many beautiful years of impersonating Chandler, both in the show and, of course, from fans. So it's a really good episode that's, you know, quite strong. It's not my favourite episode. There's nothing about it that I quote. You know, there are certain Friends episodes where I find myself quoting it on a daily basis, which I'm sure if you've, you know, binge-watched Friends for the best part of 2 decades, or even longer, you know, you'll be in the same position where Friends quotes just become part of your daily routine. But I didn't rewatching this just now, that I don't think there was anything in it that I picked up as being, although my scone is something that I do say when I have a scone or scone. I think I'm team scone, but when I'm quoting, it's my scone. That is actually something that I do quote, but only when I'm having a scone. Aside from that, it's a wonderful episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it, of course. It's not my favourite, but still one that brings me a lot of love.